My name is Paul McGrew. I graduated in 2014. I studied theater art studies. Honestly, it was going to BYU was actually a pretty good experience for me because I grew up in Indiana in a very conservative LDS family, and I was probably more Utah Mormon in Indiana than coming to BYU. Going to BYU was a very eye-opening experience for me, helped me be more accepting of myself and other people, and especially being surrounded by so many liberal Mormons, it helped me realize that Mormons weren't perfect and that, there are different flavors of religious people out there. That even though, like, for my whole time at BYU, I was never really out to anyone except for a handful of people. I was surrounded by people that I knew disagreed with the church's policies about homosexuality. It helped me kind of accept myself in that way, and eventually. But while I was at BYU, I thought I was attracted to girls for a long time, until like a couple years after I graduated from BYU. I was very active in the church, and it wasn't until the couple years after I graduated that I realized that the attraction that I was experiencing was purely aesthetic, and so then I had to ask more questions. It's a lot better, definitely, because I've fully accepted my sexuality, and I'm no longer in the church, so my life has changed quite a bit in that regard. I'm dating guys now, and I love myself now, I should say. I didn't really love myself fully while I was at BYU. But life still has its challenges. It's just, I feel like I have more tools to cope with life now that I've fully accepted myself. That's funny you use the word queer, because when I realized that I was attracted to men, the word queer was an offensive word to me. So when I was 13, I thought it was a bad word. Yeah, it was the first day of 8th grade. I saw one of my best friends for the first time at school. I hadn't seen him all summer, and just sort of like hit me like a wall, like, wow, like I'm attracted to him. And it freaked me out. That's when I realized that I was different. But like looking back on my childhood, it's obvious to me that I had been experiencing similar feelings throughout my childhood. I just didn't recognize what it was until I was 13. I was 13 when I realized I was attracted to boys, and then I didn't come out to anyone until I was 18. My parents had gone away on a temple trip. I was doing laundry, and they'd left their clothes in the dryer, and so I took it up to their room, and while I was in their room, I saw literature on my parents' desk about same-sex attraction, and I thought, it was specifically my dad's desk, and I thought, he's doing research about me behind my back. And I felt really betrayed, and I was like, well, crap. I also felt really exposed. I thought, well, I should probably tell somebody. So I made an appointment with my bishop, and I talked to him about it. And he was really compassionate, didn't really know fully what to say, but he did give me some good words of advice. He told me that I should confide in people and to build my armor to help me stay in the church was his intent. But it's still good advice to develop a network of people that you can talk to, that you can be your full self with. Like, if you don't feel safe being fully out to the world, that's totally valid and should be respected. But there are people out there that want to know you and are safe to be with and to fully confide in, and there is a way to develop that network even when you're at BYU. And when I went to BYU, I gradually came out to more and more people. One of my best friends from my mission actually came out to me halfway through my time at BYU. He came out to me over the phone, and I didn't come out to him at that time, but he came out to me and he told me, Paul, I know you're gay too. And I said, but I like girls. Because I didn't accept the term gay for myself. I didn't accept that label. I struggled with same-sex attraction, and as long as no one used that term, then I got away without having to talk about it. But 2 weeks after my friend came out to me, he died in a car accident. And I was like, another one of those experiences that I kind of had a paradigm shift, and my world got turned on its head. And I was like, well, I have to figure things out. I can't let myself self-destruct. So I came out to my brother, who was maybe the second or third person that I had come out to. I did come out to my mom right after I talked to my bishop and told her to talk to my dad about it because I didn't feel comfortable talking to him. But I came out to my brother, and he was really awesome. And he was also going through a faith crisis at the time. So it was really great. We were able to bond over that. And then there was this conference happening in Salt Lake that was about same-gender attraction, understanding same-gender attraction. A bunch of psychologists were putting it on. And it wasn't biased towards the church's perspective, per se, because there were actually a lot of therapists there that were not LDS. But they were just talking about that was just the topic. And they did bring a lot of mixed orientation couples there to talk about their experience. But it was still very hopeful and not trying to force you into celibacy or into marriage. But my brother agreed to go to this conference with me. The night before I went, it turns out my brother had told my parents, and I got a phone call from my dad saying that he knew that I was going to this conference and that he struggled with the same thing that I did, which was another moment where my world was turned on its head. I was definitely shocked because my dad, he's not your stereotypical guy who likes guys. He goes by same-sex attracted. That's the how he identifies. So it was a complete shock, and I was only the second of my siblings. There are 10 of us. I'm the second youngest. I was only the second of my siblings that he had told. Now everybody knows, as of a few months ago. That experience, I was 24 when I found out about my dad. And I was at a point where I was ready to start being more open and figuring things out. But it kind of did the opposite for me. It set me back because I felt like I can't talk about this now because I will be exposing my dad. So I didn't talk about it while I was at BYU because I didn't know how to without infringing on my dad's privacy. Eventually, I realized that I needed to act for myself and not out of fear of disappointing other people. And I had come out to multiple people along the way, but I was 29 years old. I was actually in a play at BYU 2 years after I graduated. I was playing a therapist. It was a very small cast of people. We were out for lunch. One of my fellow cast members came out to us as bi, and she said that she was very nervous about going on this date that she was going to go on because it was the first time going on a date with a girl. And then just something kind of like clicked in my head. I was like, oh, I can talk about this in a really nonchalant way. So I just kind of slipped it in the conversation and said, I get that. I'm gay and I'm terrified of going on dates with guys. And nobody batted an eye. like nobody was surprised, and yeah, the conversation was completely chill, completely normal, and it was just a really accepting group of people. It was the first time that I'd come out to an entire group of people at once. It was in the Cougar Eat in a public place. Yeah, it was a really, really good experience for me to know that I didn't have to make such a big deal about coming out. And I feel like from that point on, I've not been afraid to talk about it. Whenever someone's asked, or I've just found ways to kind of like slip it in naturally into the conversation if that's where it's going. And that's my coming out experience. Now that I'm fully out, like all my siblings know, I have a very accepting family. I mean, a lot of them are still very active LDS, so there's that, and I'm respectful of them, and I believe people should be allowed to live what they value as long as it's not hurting anybody else. So I respect that they live what they value, and especially with my parents. Maybe a little bit more of my dad's story. He didn't realize that what he was experiencing fully was same-sex attraction until after he was married, and then he talked to his bishop about it, and he told him to tell his wife. But my parents have decided to stay together. I mean, any relationship requires sacrifice and compromise, and I can't fully speak for their experience, but I admire that they chose to live what they value and that they chose to have a family. That's what they wanted, and I respect that. Yeah, so this song I wrote a couple months ago about my family. The first verse is about my nephews and nieces, and the second verse is about my siblings, and then the last verse is about my parents. And it's called When I Come Home. And I think probably a lot of people could relate to this. I tried to make it relatable outside of my experience, and not necessarily even within the queer community, but just in general. Blood of my brothers and my sister's kin, I have been missing what dreams you begin. Maybe I'll be with you sometime next May. We'll laugh and sing Joni songs to help us be brave. Will I be okay when I come home? When I come home? When I come home? Brothers, you carried me when I fell in deep. We laughed and we fought and cried, but our promises keep. Sisters, you taught me well, your shadow has flown. The choices that led in here, these choices I own. Will I be okay when I come home? When I come home? When I come home? Please, mother, talk to me. Tell me your pain. Did it hurt when I told the truth? Did it heighten your shame? Father, please sing with me. What's in a name? We're more than we call ourselves. We're one and the same. Will I be okay when I come home? When I come home?